Off-site construction, in this case, we were able to get us a full run during those winter months without, if not any delays.
Welcome to Fireproof, the Passive Fire podcast, where we delve into the world of passive fire protection. Join the Pro-Finish team as we dig into the issues we see on site and in our industry every day, and find out how you can save time, money, and headaches on major construction projects. All right, welcome back to the podcast. We've had a couple of reschedules, but we're back live, and right now I've got Jai and Kane with me. So today we're going to talk about the Northern Hospital project. Jai, why did we think it was a good idea to take on the fire package of Australia's largest ever modular building project?
I don't know, because I thought that we were probably one of the most well-positioned companies especially in Victoria, to be able to handle such a project. And I think that we had the biggest resources available to us. We had a good enough relationship, and we'd done a lot of these kind of projects before, just probably not modular, obviously.
And on this scale, yeah.
Yeah, not on this scale, but from a installing board, which was most of the job perspective, we'd done a heap of this. And like I said, we had the ability to scale up to, so I think we had 80 plasterers and carpenters on site at one point. And so I think that we were probably best positioned, from what I thought, as opposed to any other company in Victoria, to be able to handle this sort of type of project. So I thought it was going to be right up our alley.
Yeah, that's great. So, Kane, did you actually live there for about 6 months?
Yeah, well, I actually started about a month after the project kicked off.
Yeah.
So I got my second day at the company, I pretty much got told to go out to site and you'll be out here for the next 3 months.
Get comfy, set up a tent.
So we'll give everyone a little bit of background. Yeah. So you came into the company as a graduate, still finishing off your construction management degree, and it was probably your first taste on site of a live project, and you're working directly with Justin, one of our directors there. Let's maybe what were you doing?
Yeah, so as soon as I come into the project, I pretty much just got stuck into the quality assurance side of it. With probably 40 to 60 workers, the quality sometimes up, sometimes down, but we really needed someone just beyond that every day, just making sure it's up to scratch. So
it's a lot of work going out the door at once, isn't it?
It is. And when you have modules going from the yard to the work site, out the warehouse, it can get a bit lost in the scheme of things. So pretty much whenever a module was completed, that module needed to be checked off after it's gone outside to the stock.
Yeah,
warehouse.
and so how many, just to back up a touch for a second, how many modules were in the project, can you remember?
Yeah, so it's probably about 160 modules total.
That we had to work on. I think there was roughly 300, maybe 320 on the job.
Yeah, so it was 160 in stage one, and then probably another 120 in the second stage, so staggered in probably 3 month periods.
Yeah, and so it was a massive amount of steel and a massive amount of sort of board and everything that was just required at one point.
Yeah. So
your first taste of project management work was doing quality assurance. And making sure, like Jai said, a huge volume of work was being completed every day, and we really needed someone to make sure we were keeping up with that. So let's obviously we all know, but let's give everybody a bit more background as to the client, the scope, and a bit of the timeline. So we started out working with Modscape and later on with Lendlease. Both were great companies to deal with, and we've developed really strong relationships out of the project. I think sometimes when you go into battle with somebody, and you're all sort of working towards the outcome, it's testing at times, but we've come out of it and developed a stronger relationship because of it. Do you want to just touch on the client relationship, Jai?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, we started working with. I actually think it started. We started working on Sunshine Hospital. Was that the one we went to after?
Yeah, we went to Sunshine after Northern.
Yeah. So we started working on Sunshine with another contractor. We ended up getting introduced to Modscape through a mutual connection on that project, and then we started to work with a guy called Rob. And at that point, it was I mean, the nature of modular is speed. And so you have to be able to deliver quickly, and that goes all the way back to quoting. So like you have to be able to quote quickly, like answer quickly, get to site quickly, deliver quickly. Like it's speed. That's what modular is.
Mm.
It's one of the advantages of modular.
It is. I mean, that's the sell, right? Is that they can build something so quickly. So we started a relationship with Modscape, got into that really quickly. I think from quote to start date would have been, a couple of months at most, I reckon.
I think it was less.
Yeah, okay. It might have been, yeah.
Because we'd just come off the back of quoting another job.
Yeah.
And then we turned that one around really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I went away for a portion. It was like I went away and then anyway, it doesn't matter. So Modscape, started with them. One of the challenging parts about that time was that I think it was through COVID or on the back of COVID, or it was anyway. There was a lot of delays in product coming to Australia, and that was one of the major problems that we had. Was that I remember at one point they basically ran out of 30 mil board in Australia, and so we secured everything we could, and so did Modscape, and then. What happened after that was there was about a 6-month delay on getting that product. So we had to do, we ended up having to do a double layer of 15 mil, which meant we had to ramp up super quick. So when you have super strict timelines or deadlines, and then you go and you basically double that, you double the labour required in, I think we revved up from 40 to 80 in a week, I think it was. Which is just crazy. And so when you have timelines blow out by that much, or the potential to blow out by that much, everyone gets involved. And so Lendlease were very much involved. Lendlease was the head client at this point.
Yeah.
And so we were having a lot of conversations with Lendlease directly, and then just through working together, I think we just built a good working relationship. And then, there was some ups and some downs as the project went through, but we worked through them together. And we ended up developing a bit of a good relationship with both of those companies, which we're both working for a lot more now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been ongoing.
Yeah, and we ended up doing Sunshine Hospital on the back of it as well, just because, one of the main reasons was because of the quality assurance. Like the time and money that we'd spent and put into even like Kane as a resource being on site, but then even after, just making sure everything was done correctly was it's why we ended up moving to Sunshine.
There's a lot of learnings that came out of Northern for sure. Let's just have a quick talk through the scope. You're probably well suited to talk to this, Kane, seeing you live there. So I suppose just give us a rundown of the type of products, what was installed, why, what it was going to achieve.
Yep. So pretty much every module is treated as a separate, like a compartment system. So we had the system panel floor on the floor of the module, and then a ceiling system directly underneath that and above it. So this floor was made out of a 2-layer system with it was a James Hardie cement sheeting and then an 18 mil system panel sheeting from Promat.
Yep.
And then the ceiling was a double layer Promatech 115 mil ceiling. And then obviously every beam and every column in pretty much the whole entire project had to be protected with Promat board at 30 mil, which it's a massive project. So
huge board scope.
Yeah, pretty much the biggest I've ever seen.
Yep. Wow.
I think it's the biggest Promat in Australia.
Yeah, that's what we're led to believe.
Yeah,
we'll go with
it. So that there was obviously that board scope. Let's talk about some of the challenges. Jai's already mentioned the product shortages. So we'll come to that in a minute. But let's talk more about design challenges. So we're coming into this project really quickly from the outset because speed is going to be a factor. We've quoted it. We get on site and we're confronted with some things, some design elements or some interface issues. Can you talk to any of those problems that we're faced with and what we did about them, Kane?
Well, mainly I think on one on site where we ran into another supply issue of board, and we worked together with Lendlease, Modscape, as well as Promat. So we developed an interface where we can use board and vermiculite spray to achieve that fire rating.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in the areas where we just couldn't get Promat board into Australia, we substituted that with a vermiculite spray interface system.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I might just jump on there too. One of the challenging things about the industry is that you've got DTS systems, which is deemed to satisfy, which is basically tested systems, and then you've got and so it has to be like a proven. It has to be proven that it can work, basically, and that's kind of the guidelines that we work within. And then if there is a need to work outside those guidelines, it's what they call a performance solution, and that's where you need to involve a fire engineer, normally the suppliers, and you kind of all work together to come towards to get a solution. And so one of the challenging things with modular is that because it hasn't really been done, especially at this scale in Australia yet, is that there wasn't any specific testing. And so we had to, as the project was actually going, both Modscape, Lendlease and ProMat and everyone all understood that there wasn't going to be any testing. And so we had to design a lot of the scope for the tests as well as install on the tests. I think we even sent our guys to do the actual testing with ProMat, didn't we?
We may have been. I might have been before my time here.
I'm pretty sure we had to spray some things and they had to test it and stuff.
Yep.
But anyway, because of the size and because of the importance of it, I think there's some political promises and stuff as well. Basically, we fast-tracked everything through the testing process to make sure that when we got to installing everything, it was all going to be DTS, deemed to satisfy.
Yep.
And so, that was one of the most challenging things was making sure that what was actually drawn was going to work. And then, as you said, there was parts where, because in a normal building, a conventional sort of building, vermiculite to board wouldn't have been an issue. But in this scenario, because it was modular, we had to work with them to get the tests actually approved and all that, and then be able to install that on site.
So I think I do remember in this case that we actually went to the lab with Modscape, Lendlease, ProMat, our installers, basically created replicas. They were put through a fire test. So I haven't seen a fire test or heard of one that's sort of progressed and gone through that quickly. So I'm not sure who was able to pull some strings to make that happen. But that was definitely one of the challenges. And at the same time, like the work didn't stop.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you're doing what you can on site, what you can, while you're waiting on this new design element being approved.
There was even a little bit of working on the things that you think are going to get through because of the speed. You're just like, this is going to get through, this is going to get through. It just, you had to.
But at the end of the day, it was all compliant.
Yeah.
We talked about the product shortages. The program didn't change. So all of a sudden there was a supply shortage due to freight issues, product coming from overseas. The program didn't change, so we had to then quickly work out how we're going to be able to substitute or create a new solution, and then also resource the labour. So, do you want to just run through that? Particularly over, imagine somebody's listening to this and they're working on a project, and talk about how we're able to sort of mobilise. Work through the design process and who was involved in that.
Yeah, well, I'll probably start with just saying that this is like probably one of our biggest strengths, if not our biggest strength, is that because we have both the size to deliver, but there's other companies out there that are bigger than us from a plastering and carpentry sort of perspective. But they don't have the ability to be able to bring the design. And so because we're passive fire specialists and we work across all different passive fire and we work with all the different suppliers, we have the ability to be able to understand the system and come up with the designs and everything that's required. And so we understand the limitations and what can and can't happen. And then when you do get stuck, how you can shift and change to make that happen. And so that was just one point I wanted to touch on. But what was...
Yeah, so just talking about, I suppose, how we were able to then assess the situation, create a new solution, and then mobilise to get that done without affecting the program.
Yeah, well, as we sort of spoke about, there was we had to involve, there was obviously Kane was on site doing one thing. We had Justin managing a lot of the teams. We had, I think we had at least two of the consultants on it, 2 or 3 of them plus myself upstairs, and it was all systems go for a long period. So there was a lot of back and forth designing with ProMat, a lot of back and forth design. I can't remember who the fire engineers on the job were. Can you remember?
No, I can't. I can't remember the fight.
Be nice to give him a shout out.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, look, it was just working through it together. So it was just we had to, because it was so quick and happening so. I don't know. I just think everyone got on board. Like that's the client, like Lend-Lease, Modscape, everyone just all worked together to make sure that it happened very quickly. So ProMat as well. Everyone was very good. There was
a little sidetrack. You just mentioned consultants, a couple of consultants. You're talking about our team.
Yes.
So what was their role? Like how do they help assist in that situation or assist the client in making sure that we're getting the outcome?
Yeah, so the reason we have passive fire consultants as opposed to like estimators or engineers is because we sort of play, we're best suited for the area where understanding what the system's required or understanding what we're working towards from like normally a fire engineer or a building surveyor, they'll say what the building needs to achieve and what needs to be used from a concept perspective. But then when it gets to the point of actually delivering on what can be built and what is required, there's a gap between what the suppliers have tested and what, say, is recommended. And so there's a buildability aspect to that.
Yep.
And so the reason they're consultants is that the majority of their time is spent reviewing documents, making sure that, again, what's written can be achieved, working with suppliers, coming up with new drawings, different designs, and then working with all the parties involved. So like there's a lot of the time we'll spend, especially at the start of the jobs, we'll get involved, just like this one, we'll get involved with the fire engineer, the building surveyor, and the client, whereas like others won't. They'll just kind of quote as per the drawing. So it'll be like more of just an estimating service. We really focus on the consulting side of things because we know that we can, like, we've got a lot of experience working with suppliers and their test reports and understanding what actually can be achieved. And so that's where we come into the consulting sort of side of things is bridging that gap between the two.
Yeah, it's really important. That's a perfect way to summarise it too, bridging the gap. So do you want to touch on just some of the benefits of modular construction? We've sort of moved into this space and we've got some more projects coming through at the moment where even the services that we're being able to provide is expanding. You know, we're painting structural steel now. There's a lot of work that we can do before the actual modules get on site. But let's talk about some of the advantages of modular and particularly with a passive fire kind of lens. And then we'll talk about what we did sort of off-site versus what we did on-site.
Basically off-site construction, the whole module can pretty much be prefabbed to nearly a finished level of construction. The whole facade, exterior and interior, gets nearly completely developed, and then on site it's literally just a crane. A crane can bring it up and just connect it into a pre-set out space along it might be in this case of Northern Hospital, it was a pre-poured concrete structure on top of their car park. So they had a set out where every single module had its own spot, and then every single module had 8 points along it, which every single point got bolted on at a specific point where it was a long process. Some days there would have been just hours and hours and hours and hours just connecting maybe 2 modules because every single bolt needed to be millimeter perfect.
Crazy.
Because especially with Northern Hospital, because it's as you know, it's a hospital. You have service modules and you have your livable modules. So the service modules sit in between levels, and it has all your services, your HVAC, electrical, plumbing, everything. So that it just creates another whole problem for the builder. So not only does your base modules need to be millimeter perfect, but then it also creates a problem where if your base module is off a little bit, your service module is going to be a little bit off, and then vice versa. It just keeps going up for maybe 5 levels.
A couple of mil down the bottom equals a lot of mil on the top. Yeah.
And from our perspective is that because we're using a board that it just fixes directly to steel. Is that if it's a little bit off, it's rigid. You're going to be our flooring is going to be off. Our fixings are going to be everything everything needs to be millimeter perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just so.
Yep.
Yeah,
We're meant to be talking about advantages.
Well, I'll jump into some advantages. I mean, one of the things that blew me away when I first went into Modscape was that there was like houses and stuff there with tiles and stuff on the wall.
Yeah.
And so it was like, when you say it was finished, Northern Hospital probably was actually one of, they actually ran into a lot of problems there, but just because mainly because of the fire rating. But one of the key things with Modular is that you can start site works, groundworks at the same time as start building works, and so they're essentially running at the same time. So you kind of halve the time for it. And so another massive benefit is you reduce wastage.
Yep.
You reduce wastage. You also gain a lot of efficiency because you're working on, for the most part, like those modules were all very similar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you gain efficiencies because you're working in a warehouse. You're it's rinse and repeat over and over and over again. It's kind of production line sort of style, and so there are a lot of cost benefits as well.
I think the advantage for our guys is that you've got all these modules sort of lined up side by side with access around each module. So accessibility to actually get in there and get the work done, not working over the top of each other trades and cordoned off areas and stuff like that. It was a huge advantage because we could just sort of work through one and then just keep going, and other trades could just follow through.
Absolutely.
So it does create that real production line sort of environment.
And definitely for our scope, working during the winter months, I know that our other projects during winter, it can get delayed severely if there's rain or wind. Off-site construction, in this case, we were able to get a full run during those winter months without, if not any delays, because Modscape, to their advantage, have a massive interior warehouse where they can line up and lift the modules around. So
they've set up well.
Yeah. Huge advantages. So so that's a little bit about what we did off-site and some of the advantages, and then let's talk about what we did when we got on-site, and then how the modular setup was an advantage in that regard as well.
When we got on site, the guys, having worked on the modules for the last 5 months, they knew exactly what needed to be done. So it was pretty much just doing those finishing touches on all the modules, connecting up the fire rating from module to module for the ceilings and for the flooring, and especially when you have cluster columns and you can join 4 columns as one. So it even decreases the amount of work required. So if you can limit the amount of single columns and you can bundle them up, then it creates a flow-on effect throughout the whole project where everything get done in less time.
Less cuts.
Yes.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, look, I think that is a really good summary of Northern. It was a unique and challenging project.
I just want to add something.
You want to keep going?
Well, just about the on-site portion, because that was probably the modular side of things. We then did a lot of work with Lend-Lease.
Yep.
And so once we got to the site and we started working with them, we obviously had the spray with Modscape as well, which we spoke about earlier.
Yep.
But then it turned into, there was a lot of penetration work we did. So basically we did a lot of audits, made sure that what was there was actually going to be compliant. A lot of it wasn't. So we then installed a lot of penetration protection from there. We also had some interesting situations with you remember what the things were on top where the ducts come out? It was like the risers.
We
had to design some systems and stuff there.
It was a lot of kind of exhaust.
Yeah, it was like exhaust
systems,
fans and stuff like that. Yeah, all coming out through the roof. Anyway, there's some very particular details that needed to happen, so we had to work through. We spent weeks just getting some designs ready there was some problems with the dampers that were being used against the board type, against the blockwork type, just some real specific detail stuff. And so we're able to really help Lend-Lease get through that sort of portion of the project by working on that. And so, what started out was meant to just be a board job. As with most of our jobs, they turned into all the systems we offer pretty much. So it was board, panos, spray. I can't remember if we did any painting there, but there was, I think we might have done a little bit of speed panel even.
I think we might have.
Essentially it turned into the whole sort of package, which is what normally happens on sites, is that once we get engaged, they start to work with us and we work through all the different problems. go from there. So
And then as things come up, new requirements on the project during the build, we can help solve them.
absolutely.
We had a bit of a unique issue, didn't we, Kane, with pests?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the first time we've encountered that.
Oh
Yeah, so I was going to touch on that. So as we got that relationship with Lendlease, they contacted us directly to fire rate their link bridge in between the existing hospital and the new build,
Yeah.
Which was, again, another off-site construction. That fire rating, of course, was done with board, Promat 250. But then when we got on-site, we use a vermiculite spray for the bolted connections between the link bridge and the existing building. And us and the builder, we ran into the problem that during that time of the year, the cockatoos around the hospital, they nest.
Yeah.
So they began to nest in the vermiculite and chipping away at it. So
I don't know whether it was tasty or they were just using it. It was useful material for them, nice and insulated.
Yeah.
so I don't know how healthy it would have been for them.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, they loved it.
Yeah, cockatoos coming in and chipping off all the vermiculite. We had to end up going and how do you explain that as a variation? You know what I mean?
yeah, I know. Yeah. Cockatoo
anyway.
damage.
Yeah.
Who wears that cost?
Interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, look, we might wrap this up. Really good overview of what was a really complicated project and had a lot involved. Probably the biggest project we had done at the time that we took it on. And like we've already mentioned, it was a success in the end, and we've developed some really good relationships from it. And did you guys just have any final words? If anyone's looking at a project at the moment, looking ready to build, or need assistance with any of those things, have you got any final words?
Not really. You just got to just keep on top of everything every single day, because module builds like that, the unexpected can happen at any point.
Yeah. I mean, my probably closing statement is that modular is becoming incredibly popular. It's a very quickly expanding industry. I think Europe has something like 60% of the buildings are modular. Australia is starting to take off in that sector, which means there's a lot of different pop-up modular companies, and not just pop-up, but also a lot of the top end of town are moving into the modular space and starting those companies. And so they need to be ready for all these different things that we've spoken about today. There's different testing, there's different install sort of techniques. There's a lot of things that are done differently, and we've already started going to sites where modular they are building in modular, and a lot of it is wrong. Yeah, and they get into really, really tricky, expensive situations. And so my word of advice would be, work with someone like us, get us in the door as early as possible, and just build that team like we had it with Modscape and Lendlease. Like, get your client on board, get the surveyors on board, get the fire engineers if required on board, get someone like us on board, and the suppliers of the product on board, and all work together to make sure that you've across this stuff before it starts. That's right. We're fortunate enough, we're really grateful that we're able to cut our teeth on what was the biggest project to date. So, all right. Thanks for your time, guys. Enjoyed the conversation, and we'll talk soon. Thank you. See you on the next podcast.